Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Raster Calculator to highlight areas that meet a certain criteria. And so in some of the other videos, I showed how you can prep data to do this kind of work. And so we took, for example, a watersheds, and so these two watersheds, and made them so that all the cells that are in those watersheds are just equal to a value of 1. Showed how to take a digital elevation model here and reclassify it so that only certain values had a value of 1. So anything below a certain elevation has 0, and anything above a certain elevation has this purple as 1. So what we have here now is, if we turn this off, we see we have these watersheds, we have this elevation. And so what I want to show is how to highlight an area where that satisfies 2 different parameters. And you could, do this with 2, you could do it with 8. But what we want here is, the question I want to answer is, what areas of this landscape are within these 2 watersheds and in this elevation band, so satisfy both of those conditions. And you see that the areas that satisfy each of the conditions equal to 1, and we've set it up that way. So if we can add these 2 cells together, then any cell that has a value of 2 meets our criteria, and anything that doesn't have a value of 2 does not. So let's go to Raster Calculator. I'm just going to search for it up here. It helps if I spell it right. So we're going to go to Raster Calculator and Spatial Analyst. And I'm just going to say, so let's see, reclass brush. Double click on that to add it. I want to add it to, so I'm going to double click on the plus operator. You could also just type the plus. And I want to add Brush Mountain Watershed 1 is the one where both watersheds equal 1. I'm going to click that. And so let's call this meets criteria. And so that's going to create a new raster called that, where anything where it's added to these, it's equal to these 2 added together. And let's see what happens. Take a couple seconds. And what we see here is, let's turn these off. And let's go ahead and go to the symbology. And I'm going to classify. And now you can see we have, or the other thing you could do, because there are only a few values here, so you could go to unique values. Oh, I guess you can't actually do that with the raster, but so go back to classify. And what you can see is it did exactly what we wanted it to do. So these red areas have a value of 2, and the yellow areas have a value of 1. So if we wanted, just like we've talked about in other videos, if we want to go ahead and make this so we can only see the values that satisfy the criteria of we're in the watershed and above that elevation, we can just take this yellow and make it no color. And now we're just highlighting the areas that satisfy those 2 criteria. And there are other ways we could, we can use raster calculator operations to set this 1 value to NA so that we just have these. But for now, we're just going to worry about visualization. So that's how you can use raster calculator and some prepared raster data. Importantly, those raster data sets have to match up together, but everything that we did here was derived from this digital elevation model, so they match up. And you can use it to highlight areas that meet several criteria. And remember, let's say we had 4 or 5 different things and we added them all together, you would just classify, whichever one met the maximum number. So if it was meets all 5 criteria, it's going to be equal to 5, and we would show that one and turn all the other values to transparent.